They thought we were funny, not dangerous, not formidable, just amusing. I was there when the Kairati broadcast their first contact gala, piping their mocking laughter across every open frequency. It was supposed to be humanity's great moment, the day we learned we weren't alone. But instead of greetings, we got ridicule. Our ships were primitive tin cans. Our weapons, chemical toys. Our soldiers, monkeys with rifles. I'm Commander Elias Vance, Terran Defense Fleet, 5th Expeditionary Wing. And I remember the taste of humiliation. We sent a delegation to their council, and they laughed in our faces. Literally, Liv streamed it to 100 worlds. They called us Stone Age bipeds with delusions of grandeur. That was 10 years ago. We spent those years bleeding in border wars. They swatted our fleets out of the sky like flies, and they made sure the galaxy knew it. Our colonies were blockaded, our trade routes strangled. Earth became a cautionary tale. Don't overreach, they said. Don't be human. But they underestimated us. They always do. What they didn't know, couldn't know, was that while they were laughing, we were changing. The wars they forced on us didn't break us. They forged us. Faster than light drives we reverse-engineered in secret. New alloys built from scavenged wreckage. And soldiers stopped playing by alien rules of honorable engagement. I led one of those soldiers, my wing the Ghost Fangs. We learned to fight dirty. We learned to vanish. And most of all, we learned to win. But none of that explained why. 10 years later, I was standing in Earth's orbital command station, listening to a priority distress call from the very species that once mocked us. Terran Command, this is Kyrath Prime. We request immediate assistance. They're coming. They're killing everything. We can't. The signal dissolved into static and screaming. The galaxy's proud overlords, begging humanity for help. I almost laughed. Almost. The transmission repeated. Automated, desperate. My officers shifted uneasily in the command deck glow. The Kairati had never asked for anything, much less begged. "Commander Vance," said Admiral Rourke, her voice tight, "your Ghost Fangs will take point on this. Jump to Kairati border space. Recon only. No heroics." "Yes, ma'am," I said, but inside, I was already breaking that order, because I had to know who or what could make the Kairati afraid. We didn't answer right away. The message looped over and over. The Kairati distress signal playing across the deep space network like a funeral bell, and Earth's High Council sat on its hands. Why should we risk human lives for them? One delegate demanded. These are the same creatures who blockaded our colonies and paraded our prisoners for sport. Others agreed. Old wounds don't heal easy, not when they're still bleeding. But while politicians argued, analysts worked, and what they found made the room go cold. The signal wasn't faked. Energy signatures across Kairati sectors confirmed it. Entire systems were going dark. A fleet of unknown origin tearing through their space. No comms, no diplomacy, no pattern except destruction. Curiosity won the day. Fear helped. If these things burned through Kairati space, Earth was next. So I got my orders. The Ghost Fangs would jump to the edge of their territory, eyes only. Confirm the threat. Report back. No heroics. Right. I muttered as I strapped into my fighter. When have I ever done heroics? Arya Chun, my second-in-command, raised an eyebrow. You want the list alphabetically or chronologically? We jumped out of Terran space in perfect formation. 12 stealth interceptors. Black as obsidian, engines running whisper quiet. We cut through warp starlight like knives. After years of scavenging alien tech, our ships finally matched theirs, maybe even surpassed them. Not that anyone would admit it. When we dropped out of warp near Telos 4, the sensors screamed before we saw anything. Radiation spikes. Atmosphere destabilized. And then the planet came into view. It wasn't burning. Burning I could understand. This was melting. Cities sagged like wax under a blowtorch. Orbiting defense platforms drifted in pieces, not exploded, just carved apart. This doesn't look like battle damage. Arya said quietly over comms. It looks like someone harvested the place. No response was necessary. My gut said she was right. Whoever did this didn't just destroy. They took what they wanted and left. We ran a full scan. No active warships in orbit. No life signs at first glance. Then faint signals deep underground. A cluster of karate biosigns, weak but alive. Command said recon only, Lieutenant Vega reminded me. We're not supposed to. Ghost fangs don't leave civilians behind. I cut him off, marked the coordinates. We're going in. We broke atmosphere in silence. The sky glowed sickly orange, like the air itself was burning. I guided my fighter down a jagged canyon, where sensor shadows might hide us. The signal led to a shattered underground shelter. I had to cut my way in with the ship's belly laser. Inside, I found them. Children. Kairati children. Their crystalline skin dull with dust, their luminous eyes wide with fear. When they saw me, a human in combat armor, they didn't sneer, they didn't laugh. They clung to my arm, sobbing, their voices high and sharp like broken glass. "Please don't leave us," one whispered. "The shadows are coming back." That word chilled me. Shadows. Not a name you give an empire or a fleet. A name you give something you can't understand. We got them aboard. 12 in total, barely more than infants. And that's when our sensors lit up. "They're here," Arya said, her voice flat with dread. Multiple warp signatures. Inbound. Closing fast. The shadows arrived without warning. Black ships, angular and silent, sliding out of warp like knives unsheathing. No running lights. No comm signals. Just weapons hot. Evasive pattern band 7. I barked. My squadron scattered. Stealth drives spooling up. Our fighters blinking out of sight. But these ships didn't need eyes to see us. They tracked something deeper. Gravity ripples. Maybe even quantum wake signatures. Whatever it was, stealth didn't save us. Plasma fire raked across the sky. Invisible beams searing air to vapor. 2 Ghost Falling fighters went down before we even cleared atmosphere. They're faster than anything I've ever seen. Vega shouted. "Then be smarter." I snapped back. Arya dove toward the planet's surface, skimming the molten crust so close her shield screamed. I followed her lead. The shadows had pulled up or risked vaporizing themselves on the superheated terrain. That gave us the opening we needed to jump out. We cleared the gravity well with seconds to spare, the Kairati children sobbing in the cargo bay. My HUD filled with warnings, but we made the warp window and punched out. Back in Terran space, Command was furious. "Your mission was reconnaissance, not rescue," the Admiral shouted. "You risked lives and valuable stealth craft for..." I didn't let him finish. "For proof," I said, slamming the sensor data onto the table. Holographic images of shadow ships hung in the air, sleek black killers with no known profile. Weapons fire patterns we'd never seen. Energy sources off every chart. The room went silent. The Kairati hadn't been exaggerating. Something, was wiping them out. And for the first time in history, humanity wasn't the weakest species in the room. The children wouldn't stop trembling. Even in the safety of our hangar bay, even after medical teams assured them they were out of danger, they kept clutching my arm and whispering the same thing. "The shadows will follow you. They always follow." I wanted to tell them they were wrong, that humanity's stealth drives and warp jammers could keep us hidden. But the truth? I wasn't sure. Those black ships moved like predators. They didn't just see where we were. They knew where we would be. 3 hours after return to Earth orbit, my squadron sat in the debriefing chamber. Admiral Rourke paced in front of us, jaw clenched. "Commander Vance, your unauthorized engagement cost us 2 fighters and nearly a third. You disobeyed direct orders." "Yes, ma'am," I said evenly, and I brought you living proof of what we're up against. Her glare could have cut titanium, but she knew I was right. The sensor logs didn't lie. Neither did the Karate Kids, still curled up in sick bay. The analysts tore through every byte of our combat data. Energy readings? Off the charts. Hull composition? Something no known alloy could scratch. Weapons? Silent beams that left no residue except molecular destabilization, like the matter itself wanted to stop existing. But it was their behavior that scared me. No comms. No attempts to identify us. They didn't even finish us off when they had the chance, as if they weren't here to fight but to harvest. 2 days later, the first official report from Kyrath Prime came through. Not a distress signal this time. An open broadcast, voice trembling. We request Terran assistance. They're destroying everything. We cannot stop them. The galaxy must have choked on its laughter. The mighty Kairati, rulers of 100 systems, begging the monkeys with rifles for help. Earth's High Council convened again. This time there was no arguing about whether the threat was real. The question was what to do about it. Half the room wanted to ignore them. Let the Karate burn, one senator barked. They'd do the same to us. The other half, the ones with functioning strategic brains, knew better. If the shadows carved up Karate space, Earth was next. We needed intel. And the best way to get it was to follow the enemy home. The Ghost Fangs were ordered to run a deep strike, track a shadow fleet, see where they went, what they wanted, how they moved. Observe, avoid combat, and get out alive, Rourke emphasized. Understood, I said, though deep down, I doubted combat was something we could avoid. We launched under cover of a false freighter convoy, slipping into warp toward Karate space. The kids we rescued were already en route to a Terran-safe world, but their last words haunted me. They always follow. The plan was simple. Find a shadow fleet and stay invisible. But in war, plans last about as long as a soap bubble in a hurricane. Our first target was the Karate colony at Venos 3. By the time we arrived, there was nothing left. Not destroyed, not bombarded, emptied. Entire cities reduced to perfect geometric voids, like someone had cut them out with a cosmic scalpel. This isn't conquest. Arya said over comms. Her voice was low, almost reverent. This is consumption. We followed residual warp trails deeper into their sector. A chain of dead worlds, each stripped cleaner than the last. No debris, no bodies, not even dust. And then we saw them. The Shadow Fleet cruised through the void like sharks through black water. No running lights, no escort patterns, just perfect cohesion. 50 ships, maybe more, all matte black and sharp-edged, soaking up starlight. We kept our distance, engines cold, stealth drives humming at minimum. I swear I held my breath for an hour. They're not patrolling, Vega muttered. They're migrating. Like locusts, Arya added. We tailed them for 2 days through fractured warp lanes. Every few hours, one ship would peel off and disappear toward some distant star system, leaving the fleet leaner but no less deadly. Then something strange happened. They slowed. Ships rotated in unison, aligning toward a dense asteroid field. Their hulls glowed faintly as if they were feeding. What the hell are they doing? I whispered. Not mining, Arya replied, watching her scanner. No residue, no laser cutting. They're absorbing raw matter. I wanted to stay longer, learn more, but that's when it happened. One of their ships turned. Not randomly, not scanning, but directly toward us. No pings, no warning. Just sudden, terrifying awareness. They've got us, Vega shouted. Full burn. I snapped. Our fighters roared to life. Still forgotten. The shadows came at us instantly, warping space in ways I didn't know were possible. They didn't just chase us. They predicted us. Every evasive move, every counterthrust, they were already there waiting. Plasma beams carved through the void, silent and deadly. We lost 3 more fighters in seconds. I could feel my heart hammering as I threw my ship into a corkscrew dive through a warp rift, trying to shake them. Arya stuck to my wing like glue, her voice calm but sharp. Heading 210. Punch out on my mark. Now! We jumped blind, tearing space open with emergency drives. For a heartbeat, I thought we'd escape clean. Then the warning klaxons howled. One shadow ship had jumped with us. We reappeared near Terran border space, every alarm on my console screaming. The Black Predator was right behind us, matching speed, weapons charging. Get ready to eject, Arya said grimly. We'll never outrun them. Like hell we won't, I growled. I yanked hard starboard, skimming a neutron star whose radiation would fry most NAV systems. The shadow followed, unfazed. I dumped every decoy, every mine, every pulse bomb we had. Nothing slowed it down. At the last possible moment, I pulled a trick no alien ship had ever seen. I cut power completely. Dead drift. My fighter went cold, indistinguishable from debris. Arya did the same. The shadow overshot us by a fraction of a second. It was enough. I armed a graviton warhead, one of humanity's ugliest inventions, and launched it straight into its wake. The void buckled. The shadow ship folded on itself, vanishing in a flash of twisted space-time. Nice shot, Arya breathed. Don't celebrate yet, I muttered. That was just one. The rest know we're out here. We limp home battered and bloodied. Half our wing gone. The High Council was waiting grim-faced. We'd proven the shadows weren't just a rumor. They were real. They were hunting. And they'd adapt to our weapons fast. For the first time in recorded history, the Kairati sent envoys to Earth under a flag of truce. Their arrogance was gone. Their crystal robes were ragged. Their luminous eyes hollow with fear. We were wrong about you, said High Consul Valen, voice shaking. You know how to survive. We need that now. Humanity, the galaxy's punchline, had suddenly become its last hope. The Kairati arrived in silence. No ceremonial fanfare, no trumpets of crystal, no golden escorts. Their ships, once gleaming beacons of arrogant wealth, docked under Terran guns like prisoners awaiting judgment. When High Consul Valen stepped into Earth's orbital council chamber, I almost didn't recognize him. The last time I'd seen that crystalline face was 10 years ago, smirking at a broadcast as he called humans hairless apes with delusions. Now his eyes were dim, his voice brittle. We need your help, he said. Just like that. No diplomacy, no qualifiers. The High Council chamber went dead quiet. One delegate muttered, Never thought I'd see the day. Another snorted. If they weren't desperate, they'd still be laughing. But I wasn't interested in gloating. I wanted answers. Who are they? I asked, what do you know about the shadows? Valen looked at me as if I'd just named his nightmares. We don't know, he admitted. They do not speak. They do not take territory. They take matter itself, metal, atmosphere, even people. They do not conquer. They erase. And you can't stop them? Admiral Rourke pressed. Valen lowered his head. We threw fleets at them. Our finest warships, our most advanced weapons. All gone. His crystalline hands trembled. They learn. Every battle, they adapt. We win once. We never win the same way twice. That sent a murmur through the chamber. Even the coldest Terran delegates shifted uncomfortably. So you came to the primitive monkeys for help, I said evenly. Why us? Valen's voice cracked. Because you survive, no matter what is thrown at you. You are unpredictable. We need that. I won't lie, hearing that felt good, but satisfaction doesn't stop wars. The council debated for hours. Aid them or let them burn. Old grudges screamed for revenge. Pragmatism whispered of mutual survival. In the end, fear made the decision. If the shadows consumed Kairati space, humanity would be next. When they finally announced the alliance, I thought the room itself might implode from the weight of disbelief. Terrans and Kairati side by side. The joke of the century. The Ghost Fangs were assigned to lead Joint Strike training. We'd be embedded with Kairati task forces, teaching them to fight the way humans do. Dirty, unpredictable, adaptive. They hated it. On the first day, their admiral looked me up and down as though I were a stain on his uniform. "Your tactics lack honor," he said in a voice like grinding glass. "Good," I replied. "Honor gets you killed." The training was brutal. Kairati's ships were elegant, designed for symmetrical formations and precision volleys. They had no concept of guerrilla warfare, no taste for sudden reversals or feints. We drilled them until their crews hated us almost as much as they feared the shadows. But fear is a good teacher. By the end of the second week, their fleets moved with an edge they'd never had before, still graceful, but now unpredictable. Arya summed it up perfectly over comms. "Congratulations, boss. We just taught the galaxy's aristocrats how to brawl in a bar fight. Our first mission together wasn't simulation. It was war." Scouts had tracked a shadow fleet near the Varelian Nebula. The plan was simple. Ghost Fang stealth ships would bait them, Kairati heavy cruisers would spring the trap. We jumped in cold and silent, threading the nebula's violet clouds. Radiation static danced across our hulls, perfect for hiding signatures. For a moment, I thought it might actually work. Then the shadows arrived. They didn't fall into the trap. They set one of their own. 1 second, our sensors showed nothing. The next, black ships unfolded out of the void like knives through silk. Dozens of them. They didn't hesitate, didn't scan, didn't even maneuver. They struck instantly, folding space around us like a warped mirror. The battlefield twisted. Kairati formations crumpled as ships collided with their own wake. Fighters spun into blind curves, chasing echoes that weren't real. I felt my stomach lurch as my NAV display glitched. Space itself was wrong. Counterburn. Hard left. I shouted. My squadron barely avoided colliding with an ally frigate. Plasma lances lit up the darkness, slicing through ships like paper. The Kairati admirals panicked, shouting contradictory orders. Their perfect formation shattered. Half their fleet was gone in minutes. In the chaos, I saw something that froze my blood. A shadow drone latched onto a Kairati cruiser, its hull spiking with black tendrils. It didn't fire weapons. It injected something into the ship. Moments later, the cruiser didn't explode. It liquefied. Solid metal flowed like water, drawn into the shadow drone until nothing remained. "Vance, they're boarding through hulls." Arya yelled, "I see it. Get clear." We fought like hell to cover the retreat. Terran graviton torpedoes scored a few kills until the shadows adapted mid-battle, warping around them like they knew the trick already. By the time we jumped out, we'd lost half our joint fleet. The Kairati admiral, who'd mocked our primitive tactics, stared at me hollow-eyed, too shocked to speak. Back at Earth Command, the mood was grim. "They're worse than we thought," Rourke said after our debrief. "They don't just destroy ships. They eat them. They're building something from the inside out. What happens when they're done?" I asked. No one had an answer. For weeks, humanity and Kairati fought running battles, bleeding for every system. And for the first time, the galaxy watched humans do what we do best: adapt faster than anyone imagined possible. We built weapons no Kairati engineer would dare attempt. Warp ripple mines, singularity bombs, even experimental graviton shears that could tear small ships apart at the molecular level. But the shadows kept coming. Every battle they survived made them smarter. Every Terran trick they saw, they learned, and then came the call I knew would come sooner or later. Valen himself appeared on a scrambled channel, his crystalline face pale. "Commander Vance," he said, voice breaking, "they're at Kyrath Prime. Our fleets cannot hold them. We beg for your help." The same world that once mocked humanity now cried out for Terran protection. I didn't hesitate. If Kyrath Prime fell, Earth was next. And maybe, just maybe, this was humanity's chance to show the galaxy why we don't die quietly. Ghost Fangs. I said over comms, gear up, we're going hunting. We didn't see them coming. Not because they were invisible, though their stealth fields were impressive, but because our minds refused to believe the impossible. The galaxy's apex predator, the Korthid Empire, had vanished from the front lines, and now they returned not as conquerors but as refugees. The first Korthid warships to limp into Sol orbit bore scars no human weapon could have caused. Hulls ripped clean apart, energy patterns warped like molten glass. These were ships designed to tear moons in half, yet they arrived broken, bleeding, terrified, and they asked us, the primitive mammals they'd once mocked, for sanctuary. I was on Earth's orbital command station when it happened. The alarms didn't go off because there was no threat, at least not the kind our systems understood. The long-range monitors simply picked up an armada translating into real space near Neptune's orbit. At first, I expected a fight. I thought they'd come to finish the war they started. But the ships didn't fire. They didn't even raise shields. They drifted forward like dead whales in a cosmic sea, broadcasting a single message on every frequency. Help us. They are coming. No one knew who they were. Not yet. When the first Korthid dreadnought docked with us, I led the boarding detail. Orders from Earth Command were clear. Verify it wasn't trapped, secure the ship, and interrogate survivors. What I found wasn't an enemy. It was a nightmare. The Korthid warriors, once towering reptilian brutes who mocked our soft, water-filled bodies, were gaunt, trembling things. Their scales had dulled to ash. Some had torn off their own combat harnesses in panic. Their commander, a beast named Vrax who I'd seen on enemy broadcasts vowing to wipe out humanity, collapsed to his knees the moment we entered. His translator crackled as he rasped. It eats the stars. We tried to fight. We couldn't. His claws dug furrows into the deck. His voice shook in frequencies no Korthid ever showed in public. They didn't just fear death. They feared erasure. The interrogations revealed fragments of horror, an unknown force, something not mechanical, not biological, was sweeping across the Perseus arm. Entire sectors had gone silent, not conquered, not enslaved, but gone. Korthid fleets sent to investigate vanished without a trace. When scouts returned, their minds were shattered, babbling about dark suns and shadows that breathe. I remember sitting across from Vrax in the interrogation chamber, studying the trembling titan who'd once sworn humanity would crawl before him. Why us? I asked. Why come here? His slitted eyes locked on mine. There was no arrogance left in them. Because you fight like nothing else we've seen. You fight everything. You don't stop, not even when you should. It was meant as an insult. This time it wasn't. Earth Command debated what to do. Many wanted to turn the Korthid fleet away, let them be hunted by their mysterious enemy. Some even wanted to finish them off, end the war with a single strike. But I'd seen what was coming reflected in their eyes. If it could do that to the Korthids, humanity didn't stand a chance either. I argued to bring them in, to listen, to unite. My words weren't poetic, just desperate. If we let them die, we die next. If we help them, maybe they'll help us back. Reluctantly, Command agreed. For the first time in galactic history, humans and Korthids shared a table. Not to kill each other, but to plan survival. Then the signal came. A single transmission from a deep space relay on the edge of human-colonized space. I knew the operator there, a quiet kid named Eli who joined the service because he liked the silence of deep space. His last message was a whisper, broken by static. The stars are going out. And then nothing. We scrambled reconnaissance drones, but the feed showed only darkness, not the natural black of space, but suffocating void that moved, devouring starlight itself. Systems near the relay blinked offline one by one, not destroyed but erased, like someone had deleted them from reality. The Korthids had a name for it now. The Devourer. The next weeks were chaos. Human and Korthid engineers worked side by side, patching together ships, trading tech, preparing defenses. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Our enemies had become our teachers. Their stealth systems, our AI coordination. Their plasma lances, our railgun accuracy. Still, I felt it wasn't enough. We weren't preparing to win. We were preparing not to lose too quickly. I spent long hours in the docking bays, watching soldiers who'd once tried to kill me now sharing rations with my crew. They never smiled, not like humans do, but I saw something change in them, a glimmer of respect, or maybe just shared fear. One night, as I was walking the catwalks, I overheard a Corthid soldier mutter in his own language. I only caught a fragment, but my translator fed it to me. The mammals laugh in the face of death. Perhaps that will save us. But not everyone trusted them. On Mars base, riots broke out when civilians learned we were harboring Corthids. They burned our colonies. People shouted. They killed our families. Now we're protecting them. I couldn't blame the anger. My own brother had died in the first Corthid raid on Titan. Part of me still wanted vengeance. But vengeance wouldn't mean much if the entire solar system got swallowed by darkness. The first real contact with the Devourer came on a cold morning above Europa. A fleet of mixed human Corthid ships had gone to investigate a derelict mining station. I was aboard the Resolute when we saw it. At first it looked like a shadow cast by nothing. No stars behind it. No reflection. Our sensor screamed. Radiation spikes. Gravimetric distortions. Quantum noise. And then it moved. It didn't fire weapons. It didn't need to. Ships simply stopped working. Whole reactors shut down as if they'd never existed. Crews screamed over comms as their voices disintegrated into static. We barely escaped. Half the fleet didn't. The Corthids were right to be afraid. When we limped home, silence filled the briefing room. No one wanted to speak first. Then Vrax slammed his clawed fist onto the table, so hard the alloy bent. Running will not save us. We must hunt it. Hunt it? The thing that ate fleets like snacks? The idea sounded insane. But something in me lit up when he said it. Not because I believed we could kill it, but because I believe we had to try. And if humanity is good at one thing, it's trying the impossible. As preparations for a counterstrike began, I recorded a message for Earth Command. Not a formal report. A warning. If you're hearing this, know that the Corthids were never our real enemy. They were just the first ones to run into the dark. Whatever's out there, it's coming. And when it gets here, laughing won't be an option. For the first time, I saw something strange in Vrax's expression as he stood beside me. Not fear, not rage, but something almost human. If we survive this, he said quietly, I will tell you why we first came for your world. It was not conquest. It was desperation. I didn't understand what he meant then. I would soon, because the Devourer wasn't just hunting stars. It was hunting us, and it knew exactly where to find Earth. I used to believe war was about survival. Now I know it's about balance, about paying the universe in blood until your enemy can't afford the cost anymore. The Fleet Council's message replayed in my head as I stared at the hollowed ruins of Bastion Prime. Stand down, human. You've made your point. My point? That's what they thought this was? A tantrum? No, this wasn't about proving a point. This was about burning away the lie that humans could be broken. I moved through the ash-choked corridors of the alien capital, like a ghost. The walls still radiated heat from orbital bombardment. 1,000 enemy banners had turned to black rags clinging to stone. My exo-armor's boots crunched over bone fragments that had once been warriors chanting my death. And still, they didn't understand. Not until I reached the central atrium. There, surrounded by shattered statues of their warlords, was a single child, blue-skinned, trembling, holding a shard of glass like it could protect her from me. I lowered my weapon. Go, I told her, my voice flat through the helmet speaker. She didn't move, just stared at me with those black eyes, as if trying to decide whether monsters could lie. I turned and walked away, leaving her alive, A single act of mercy. It was the only mistake I made that day. When I reached my dropship, an encrypted transmission was waiting. Not from Earth Command. Not from my allies. From them. The child's voice filled the cabin. You left me alive. That was weakness. Static crackled. A second voice, older, cold, commanding, took over. Human, you think you are vengeance. But vengeance can be measured, tracked, outmaneuvered. Mercy is chaos. We will show you what yours costs. Coordinates followed. Not to Bastion Prime, but to Sol, to Earth. My blood ran cold. This wasn't random retaliation. They had known where I came from all along. They had been waiting for me to care. I slammed a fist against the console, denting the alloy. No, I hissed. You don't get Earth. The dropship roared into the void, engine screaming under full thrust. I plotted an illegal jump. Burning every ounce of reactor fuel I had left to shave hours off my return. My hands shook, not from fear, but from rage. Every act of mercy is a door left open, and I had left one wide. The Sol defense grid came into view like a crown of fire, but something was wrong. Half the satellites were cold. No friendly transponder signals. No response to my hails. Then I saw them. Enemy carriers sliding into high orbit like vultures, their hulls glowing with atmospheric friction. They weren't just here to bombard. They were here to land. I locked every weapon system on my ship and screamed into the comms. Earth Command, if you can hear this, brace yourselves. If you can't, then forgive me for what I'm about to do. I dove straight into their formation, railguns spitting molten tungsten, missile pods hissing trails of fire. One carrier erupted into a flower of plasma. Another tried to peel off, but I rammed its engines and tore through its spine like wet paper. My ship was breaking apart. Hull breaches everywhere. Oxygen bleeding into space. Didn't matter. I only needed one last run. Through the shattered canopy, I saw Earth below, blue, fragile, unaware. I wasn't fighting for humanity's survival anymore. I was fighting for mine, for the part of me that still cared enough to come home. As I armed the reactor for self-destruct, I whispered into the void, "You want to know the price of mercy? Fine. You're about to pay it in full." The enemy's homeworld hung in space like a dark pearl, scarred and ringed by orbital debris. Their fleets were gone, most torn apart in battles they started. Some fled into the void, hunted to extinction. Now only their world remained. The council begged me to stop. "Colonel Voss," they said, "victory is already ours. Further bloodshed will poison humanity's soul." I laughed in their faces. Humanity's soul had been poisoned the day their armadas burned our cities. Now I was just delivering the antidote. My ship, Gravedigger, drifted over their capital continent. I could see the cities below, hollow shells of steel and glass, buzzing with refugees, their armies broken and scattered. I opened a channel they'd been too afraid to answer for weeks. "You wanted mercy," I said. "You wanted negotiation. You wanted to pretend this war was a misunderstanding. But you never misunderstood us. You underestimated us." Static answered, then a trembling voice. "Human, please. We surrender. The war is over." I smiled bitterly. "No, the war ends now." I deployed the payload. Nanite storms bred from our dead, forged from human ingenuity and rage. They weren't bombs. They were reapers. They didn't explode. They erased. Whole cities turned silent as the swarms devoured infrastructure, weapons, and soldiers alike. They didn't touch civilians. This wasn't about blind slaughter. This was about making sure they could never raise a fleet again. On the ground, their leaders tried to flee. I watched them run through burning streets like rats as the people they'd ruled screamed for protection that would never come. For once, they knew what Earth felt like. My crew stared at me, horrified. "Sir, this isn't war. This is extermination." "No," I said coldly. "This is justice." Hours later, I stood on their soil for the first time. The air smelled of ozone and ash. Their military was gone. Their command centers were rubble. I walked into their governing hall unarmed, because no one was left to stop me. The last surviving high marshal crawled out from under a shattered column, bleeding and broken. Why didn't you kill us all? He croaked. Because extinction is mercy, I said. And you don't deserve mercy. You'll live, you'll rebuild, and you'll remember. He stared at me with a hatred that couldn't even find words. I leaned close. Next time you think about waging war on humanity, ask yourself, do you really want to find out what comes after zero mercy? I left him there, choking on dust and shame. When I returned to Gravedigger, Earth's Council tried one more time to call me off, but I'd already shut down their channel. They'd never understand. This wasn't politics. This was personal. As we broke orbit, I looked down at the smoldering world below. Not conquered, not destroyed, just humbled. And for the first time since this war began, I felt something close to peace. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was no longer prey. One human, zero mercy, and never again would anyone forget it.